Next slide, please. Okay, I guess we're gonna watch it. Okay, so this is characterization. This is building a character. This is from the movie Stranger Than Fiction.
This is a story about a man named Harold Crick and his wristwatch. Harold Crick was a man of infinite numbers, endless calculations and remarkably few words. And his wristwatch said even less. Every weekday, for 12 years, Harold would brush each of his 32 teeth 76 times. 38 times back and forth, 38 times up and down. Every weekday for 12 years, Harold would tie his tie in a single Windsor knot instead of the double, thereby saving up to 43 seconds. His wristwatch thought the single Windsor made his neck look fat, but said nothing. Every weekday for 12 years, Harold would run at a rate of nearly 57 steps per block, or 6 blocks, barely catching the 8:17 Kronecker bus. His wristwatch would delight in the feeling of the crisp wind rushing over his face. And every weekday for 12 years, Harold would review 7.134 tax files as a senior agent for the Internal Revenue Service.
Reg section 1.469-2BI. Thanks. Harold, 89 times 1,417. 126,113. That adds up.
Only taking a 45.7-minute lunch break and a 4.3-minute coffee break, timed precisely by his wristwatch.
Oh, great. Yeah, we'll go to Marlins.
Beyond that, Harold lived a life of solitude. He would walk home alone. He would eat alone. And at precisely 11:13 every night, Harold would go to bed alone, placing his wristwatch to rest on the nightstand beside him. That was, of course, before Wednesday. On Wednesday, Harold's wristwatch changed everything.
Okay, so do we have a clear idea of who this man is? Yeah, so what kind of a person is he? Boring? Horrible? Fanatic, someone said? Fanatic? What else? Surly. Fastidious? Maybe?
Precise.
So these little details about Harold, like he brushes his teeth exactly 38 times, he takes 57 steps going to the bus, this obsessive, right? This is characterization, so we know what sort of person he is. Right? As the movie goes on, we learn more about his character, his spirit, what makes him up internally. Okay, I'm just gonna hit these points really fast so we can continue. So writing dialogue, some good advice. Listen to how people actually talk in the real world. So listen to that, not just the way people speak in movies, because it's two different things. You want to determine the flow of dialogue. In essence, when somebody says something and when somebody else responds. Right? We don't want characters that are just listening or just speaking. Often, when we have a conversation with someone, we are just waiting for our turn to speak. Right? They're speaking, blah, blah, blah. We know what we're going to say. We say that next, blah, blah, blah. But in a screenplay or a story, it's important to to control the flow of the dialogue and make sure that there is a reason that everyone says something. And this goes back to characterization, right? Every time a character says something, they say it the way they do, they say it when they do, they say it why they say it, is all happening because of who this person is and the needs of the story. Last bit of advice, can you cut it, right? Is there anything shorter that would work better? You might have a scene of dialogue that's 2 or 3 pages. Maybe you can tell the same story, have the same dialogue in half a page and deliver the same information to the audience. Maybe you don't need 5 minutes, maybe you just need 10 seconds. So, what was the advice? Who said it? You need to kill your babies. You need to kill your babies. The scenes you love the most, the things you think are the best, maybe you can cut them. Maybe the story works better without them. Next slide. Okay, skip that, please. Skip that. Okay, final draft. Remember, you're done when it's good enough, right? It's never going to be perfect. Never. You can keep rewriting and rewriting forever. It will never be perfect. So you need to know when to stop. That it reads and performs well. So when you read it, you say, okay, this reads good, and it speaks well. As in, if you do a round table or a table read with actors, that it can be performed well. Sounds good out loud. It can be interpreted by anyone, because maybe you are not the director. Probably, you just wrote the script. It's going to somebody else to make the movie. So can they interpret that? Or is it written in some kind of Hammurabi's code that only you can understand? Right? It's important that anyone has the ability to interpret your screenplay as a writer, unless you know for sure, I am going to be directing this movie. Right? And lastly, back to the beginning, this has to be a movie you want to see. Don't write a movie that you wouldn't pay money to see just because you think that you want to write the script. Right? Again, in the end, imagine this movie being in the theater. Yes, I would go down on a Friday night with my friends and say, yes, let's go see it and pay money to see it. Where are we? Next slide. Next. Okay, here's some of our vocabulary words. If anyone wants, I believe we can probably send you this presentation later. Do you think? Yeah, we can send you this presentation if you're interested in reviewing it later. So all of our different vocabulary words, character, make them likable, fill in the gaps, short synopsis, characterization details, tagline, logline, conflict, draft, connect the dots, incorporate feedback, yada, 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 yada. So I think that's it for my part. I think we are ready to move on to the interview. So let me introduce to you, Maria Gamboa. Maria Gamboa, Colombian director of the films Vendimil and Mateo. Her short film Tesis was featured in the long-form compilation Amazonas in 2016. She studied directing and producing at NYU Tisch School of the Arts. She also studied film theory and history in Paris at La Sorbonne. I'm not even going to try that next part because my French is terrible, but led a screenwriting workshop, a well-known screenwriting workshop. She has been director and editor of many films, documentaries, and television shows in Colombia and around the world. She has directed 2 seasons of Revelados for Canal 13 and La Casica for Caracol, which I believe has not aired yet. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So let's give Maria Gamboa a big round of applause. Welcome, Maria. So Maria is here to have a conversation with our other guest, Frank Baez. Let's introduce Frank really quickly. Frank is a prolific writer. He has won many awards in the areas of novel writing, short stories, essays, and feature writing, or article writing, and his screenplays. He is a screenwriter and a script doctor, so he helps people develop their own screenplays. He's editor of the magazine Objeto Visual. He is a researcher in the area of screenwriting dramatics. He has written several books on screenplay writing, all of which I highly recommend. He has been a dramatic assessor and a script advisor on many, many television shows, many well-known telenovelas, and he has been a professor of screenwriting, film analysis, film theory at various Venezuelan and Latin American universities. Also, he is the author of Escriba software, not for screenwriting, but more for dramatic structure of scripts, less than screenwriting. So it's not movie magic, it's not final draft, but it's something else, something unique, and maybe he can tell us more about that. Frank? Welcome, Frank Baez.
So here we are. Thank you, Miles, for your really clear presentation. And I'm really excited to be here with Frank and to have this conversation, and that there are so many people in the movie theater.
Well, thank you all of you. Thank you, Mike and Cinemateca, for inviting me. And here we are, just talk.
So we're going to talk mainly about building character, but before that, I know that Frank studied. Well, maybe you could tell us a little bit of your background, and especially, Frank started his career studying mathematics, and I was really curious if you could tell us about studying mathematics and shifting to movies.
Okay. Well, as everything in life it was an accident, I think, but a good one. I am very happy to have studied mathematics, because mathematics taught me a lot. Actually, I wanted to be a writer, a fiction writer first, and then I studied engineering. I hated that. My family loved that, but I hated that. And then I changed for mathematics, because it seemed to me that it was more like literature. I think so. I thought that way. And then I finally started writing. I wrote a novel, and I started screenwriting, and here we are. And here I am talking about writing movies. But math, I learned a lot about structure because when you work with mathematics, you work with structure. And as Mike said, screenwriting for a screenwriter, structure is a very, very important thing. You have to understand the structure of your scripts, and dramatic is all about structure. That's the reason I can use mathematics in my work.
Okay, that is, so how does this structure, mathematical structure that you're saying is very useful of course, in the structure of cinematography, how does it start? Let's say, well, I'm actually writing a screenplay right now, and I'm really confused. There is absolutely no structure in my story. Where is the starting point? So I know that you're this amazing script doctor, and I say, Frank, I need help. How do we start? How could?
Okay. First of all, if you have a screenplay and you talk to somebody, maybe they tell you you have a structure problem. Structure problem is a kind of word you use seldom.